Hi, I'm Chesley with SIUE's Campus Activities Board, and joining me right now is the creator and the star of the hit MTV series Catfish, Mr. Nev Schulman. How are you?
I'm great, thanks.
Thank you so much for joining us. I know the students are really looking forward to tonight's lecture.
Not as much as I'm looking forward to.
Everyone make some noise if you're ready for Nev.
We know that you've been doing a lot of traveling here in the last few months, especially to different universities, with this particular lecture. Why did you decide it was time to take Catfish on tour?
Well, the idea of Catfish started as my own experience in a relationship with someone on the internet who was pretending to be someone that they weren't. And when it turned into a film, there was such a outpouring, a response from people who, like me, had had similar experiences or thought they might be having a similar experience. And so it was very clear that there was a national, if not international, conversation that was sort of right below the surface that my film kind of tapped into. And it's only been growing since then. And I think more so than just the film and now the TV series, people really want and are looking for a place to discuss and ask questions regarding how we use social media, how to protect ourselves, how to sort of balance our real life versus our digital lives. And that's something I'm very interested in, and I think that all plays into why this happens to begin with, where people get sort of wrapped up in these online relationships. So it's something that I care about, and people seem to be really interested in. So that's why I am taking it to the streets.
Okay. We're constantly seeing commercials and advertisements promoting online dating, now so more than ever. Why do you think this trend has grown so popular among young people?
Well, I think for as long as I've been around, and I'm sure before me, dating was always a little awkward. I mean, it's a little scary to ask someone out. Rejection sucks, and a lot of people choose to avoid it at all costs, understandably. And so now we have this new way of communicating that very much sort of protects you. It's a distance or a buffer between you and the person that you potentially will want to ask out or like. That gives you a safe space to first get to know them without the physical sort of risks or pressures of being in person, and allows you to very casually, locate and interact with any number of people who wouldn't otherwise be available to you. Because how many people are you going to meet at the local bar in your town versus how many people in your state all have the same interests and passion for border collies? I mean, you're just exposed to way more people who you might be interested in. And I think for that reason it's great. And I understand why people are using it.
Okay. In regards to the show, as a viewer watching, you take us through all the ups and downs and the happy times as well as the sad times that these individuals are facing during their encounters. Was there ever any segments or scenes that you regret airing?
Oh, that I regret airing. I don't think so, because the real purpose of the show is to, as honestly as we can, portray real life, both in our reactions and the experience of what we're going through, and also in the actual lives of the people that we're interacting with. If I regret anything, it's all of the things that we don't get to show on the show, because naturally over the course of the 5 or 6 days that we're shooting an episode, so much happens, there's so many interactions and details that we just don't have time for, and storylines and side stories and interesting facts that all sort of make the relationship feel very real. So unfortunately when you watch the show, because we have to sum it up in 42 minutes, sometimes things come across as a little silly or obvious, and people watching always say like, oh, how could they believe that? But when you live it for months or years and it kind of comes in trickle by trickle and there's all these little interesting details and moments, it all fills out the story. So I always regret not being able to show all that, because it definitely explains why people are in these relationships more so than just, I love them because they text me every morning.
Tyler wants to know, where did you get the name Catfish?
Well, that's a question I get a lot, and I understand why. In the documentary, which was about my catfish experience, we were told a story while we were interviewing a gentleman about fishermen who used to transport cod from Alaska to China. And over the course of the trip, which would take sometimes weeks or even more, the codfish that were alive in these big ships, vats, would sort of become lifeless or lazy. And as a result, their muscle would sort of deteriorate, thus losing flavor. And somebody had the bright idea of dropping a couple catfish into these giant vats, which would chase around the cod, maybe eating a few of them, but subsequently keeping all of them moving. And in life, there are people like that, people who surprise us, keep us guessing, keep us on our toes, sort of nip at our fins. And that was certainly true for my experience, and I think many people have had similar experiences with people. So that was sort of how we identified the person in the film. And I also think it did a good job of being perfectly vague and somewhat mysterious and intriguing.
Brooklyn wants to know if you have any advice for someone who's planning on dating online.
I have lots of advice.
What's your advice in 30 seconds or less?
I think the most important thing you can do when dating online or otherwise is to just be really upfront and clear with the person as well as yourself with what you are looking for. More than anything, I think people get hooked or sort of into these relationships online where one of them's really interested in pursuing a serious relationship, or at least just meeting up and going out to see if that could happen, and the other person isn't. They're in it just for some friendship or companionship, and those end up leading to oftentimes long, drawn out, and not such fruit-bearing for fruitful. Well, I don't know. Fruit-bearing sounds weird. But, so yeah, I mean, I think if you go online to date, know why you're doing it, and more than anything, be confident in requesting whatever necessary information you need to verify that the other person is who they say they are up front. It's not weird. It's weird to not ask for that, in my opinion. People are like, oh, I don't want to be creepy and ask them to send me a picture. Well, I think it's weird to not get that. And if they can't prove to you who they are initially or meet up with you right away, then you should reconsider how much time you want to invest into that exchange.
Well, Nev, I want to thank you for joining me. I'm definitely looking forward to tonight's lecture and hearing everything you have to say. On behalf of SIUE's Campus Activities Board, I'm Chesley Waddell. Thanks for watching.
Back to you.